Selected 1. Silence has become your superpower. What they once mistook for defeat was actually divine recalibration. You've entered a dimension where noise is irrelevant, where truth doesn't shout, it vibrates. And when you withdrew your energy, the entire system that depended on your light began to short-circuit. Somewhere behind closed doors, 3 advisors just spoke your name in tones that wavered between awe and fear. They discussed your value, your influence, your inexplicable timing. And when your truth was spoken aloud, the unfiltered, undeniable version, the most powerful person in that room stood up and walked out. No argument, no explanation, just left. Because the moment they heard what you truly are, they knew the illusion couldn't continue. Right now, a billionaire, yes, a name whispered in headlines and trading floors, sits in silence, staring at an empty chair. The same chair where their most trusted voice once sat before realizing the truth. They finally understand why, without you, everything they built feels hollow. Their empire hums, but has no soul. Their equations compute, but the results are lifeless. You were never just another piece on their board. You were the frequency that made the circuitry hum. When you went quiet, the algorithm collapsed. The simulation broke. The imposters who fed off your energy are watching their own reflections, and realizing that you were the code they tried to copy but could never replicate. They stand in for you, your chosen one. In other words, they were the embodiment of the energy you had been exuding. People didn't defend or dispute when they talked, even when they were trying to dull your light. All they did was present the facts. They argued that if that individual was the true issue, then why did everything work well while they were around and fall apart when they were gone? The questioner, the heavenly disruptor who had been sent in that room, especially for this purpose, was the second advisor. They did not read fortunes, but they did hold oracle cards. Asking the awkward questions that no one else dared to ask, they were reading the room. Do you think you're seeing the right person? They inquired. Or are they seen through filters that you were given by someone else? Each inquiry was a doubtful seed sown in the deceitful soil, and disclosures were about to blossom from those seeds. The third advisor remained silent. They were silent, and their quiet spoke more than words. They were the cosmic witness, the watcher, and the force that, just by being, allows individuals to perceive themselves clearly. They didn't have to talk since their falsehoods were already making everyone uneasy just by being there. They were aware of your true identity. They had always known, and soon everyone would know what they knew. In that room, there was another person, someone who had been using the energy of someone in a position of authority to position themselves as everything you were not. This individual has been creating an identity that was deliberately meant to be your opposite for months, if not years. They would be performative if you were genuine. They would be strategic if you were donating. They would tell whatever lie was most lucrative at the time if you were the truth. They believed they were winning. They believed they had effectively replaced you, but fate had other ideas. The atmosphere changed, the temperature changed, the light changed, and everyone could feel it. But the karmic felt it the most when your true worth began to be discussed in that room, and the actual consequences of your presence or absence were clearly set out. They knew that if they remained in that room, their mask would completely come off. Not in part, not progressively, not entirely, and not permanently. Thus, they took the only action possible. They got up, said something about an important issue, and walked away. This is what they were unaware of, however. Everyone wanted the affirmation that they were leaving, to share the love of the angels, write amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. Upon seeing this spectacular departure, the strong individual instantly realized everything. The person who professed to be so superior to you, so faithful, and so committed couldn't even take a discourse in which your worth was recognized. Seeing someone flee from their own shadow was similar, except the shadow represented the reality they had been frantically trying to escape. There's something important about this moment that you must comprehend. This was no accident. There were forces behind this that are incomprehensible to us. This realization was the culmination of every rejection you encountered. Pressure was building for this dramatic opening with each door that closed. Every falsehood that was spread about you strengthened the case for the ultimate revelation of the truth. There was no punishment for you. You were getting ready for disclosure rather than retaliation. The millionaire or influential individual has been living in a well-crafted world. They have been regulating their views, filtering their information, and curating their experiences by their advisors. They were being imprisoned, even if they believed they were being protected. You had been portrayed as a danger to their freedom, even though you were the key to their prison. It's a delightful irony. They were shown that the exact thing that would free them would also destroy them. However, falsehoods can never equal the frequency of truth. It has a vibrational frequency that can break through even the strongest barriers of deceit. And you choose one. Even when no one appeared to be listening, especially when no one seemed to be listening, you have been continuously transmitting that frequency. You are hazardous to false systems because of such constancy. Depending on who is observing, you don't alter. You don't change your frequency according to the people present. Whether you're being hailed or persecuted, you stay true to yourself. This was something the departing karmic was aware of from the beginning. They put a lot of effort into slanting your image because of this. They realized right once that your genuineness would reveal their fakery. Their performance would be exposed by your presence. Share the love of the angels. Write amen and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. Their falsehoods would be exposed by your truth. In an attempt to define you before you were clearly seen, they launched a preemptive attack. Here's what they didn't know about divine timing, however. Though it might be postponed, truth can never be ignored. Now, the strong individual is sitting with the unease of understanding. They're going over every conversation, every choice, and every instance in which they opted for the cozy lie rather than the uncomfortable reality about you. They're observing how they were tricked into avoiding you, how they believed that your self-respect was arrogance, your limits were coldness, and your strength was violence. They're experiencing vertigo due to the total reversal of comprehension. You're not waiting for them to apologize, however. You're not frantically looking at your phone to see what message they left. You're not practicing your response for when they do get in touch. After all those nights of self-doubt, you've earned that position of authority. All those times when you wondered whether they were correct about you. All the times you decided to uphold your morals, even if it appeared like it would cost you everything. The war for your own soul was the only one that mattered, and you've already won it. Promote this video so that additional people who are selected like you may watch it if you thought that these statements were true. The questioner and the second advisor in that room stand in for the energy that is now permeating the lives of many individuals. False narratives are being cracked in a number of dimensions by the energy that poses the question, what if everything I believed about this person was wrong? People who have heard about you, but have never met you are beginning to doubt what they have heard. Those who disregarded you are trying to figure out what they missed. Those who deceived you are starting to realize what they have lost. The person who ran away is learning something unpleasant in the meanwhile. Without access to the strong person's resources and energy, they are forced to confront their true selves without the use of theatrical effects or props. They attempted to flee to a different circumstance or someone to take advantage of. However, a fundamental change has occurred. Their tricks are no longer effective. The locks seem to have been altered by the universe, and their manipulative key is no longer valid. Realizing they have based their whole identity on opposing you, they are standing outdoors in the cold. And now that you're being shown to be worthwhile, their own model exposes them as useless. Share the love of the angels. Write amen and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. The cosmos itself is represented by the quiet watcher in that chamber, who watches, records, and waits for the ideal opportunity to disclose the truth. They weren't absent while they were silent. There was no need for words since its presence was so comprehensive. They were making room for discovery to happen organically, and they nodded subtly, telling everyone what they needed to know as the karmic ran away. All along, the cosmos had been keeping track, and it was almost time to disclose the final count. At this point, you're starting to get notice from unexpected places. This is the blessings test, however. Not all door openings are intended for foot traffic. Not all apologies should be accepted. Not every chance coincides with your fate. You must now handle the wealth of acknowledgement with the same judgment that got you through the desert of rejection. Avoid feeling lightheaded while the pendulum swings. Remain grounded in your truth. The strong person is learning something important, yet they still want to put things right. They are not necessary to put things right. You have already rectified the situation inside yourself. You've already shown your value by trial and fire. By being true to yourself when it would have been more advantageous to be phony, you have already shown your worth. They're experiencing a necessary breaking as a result of this awareness. They must realize you are not a resource to be obtained. You are a formidable presence. Now, new advisors are joining their group. Those who choose sincerity above appearance and truth over comfort. Many of them have personal tales of misinterpretation followed by confirmation. They may identify with your path since it is similar to their own. In rooms that you will never visit, they will pronounce your name differently. They will rectify untrue stories you will never hear. They will lay out pathways for you to follow without revealing who paved the route. However, the biggest change is taking place inside of you. All those self-doubt episodes are being remedied in retrospect. All rejections are being exposed as acts of divine protection. Every door that is closed is seen as a heavenly reroute. Every period of seclusion is seen to be a heavenly prelude. Before today, you couldn't have handled this recognition. You had to become unbreakable first, not because you weren't deserving. The first advisor in the room, the one who was unassailably aware of their value. They were showcasing your current self to everyone. You're not trying to prove yourself anymore. Your value is no longer being negotiated. You stopped settling for less than you deserve in order to fit in. You've progressed from looking for approval to just being accepted. The karmic run was caused by this change in your energy. The frequency you now maintain is insufficient for them to exist. With no one else, the strong person is feeling something they have never felt before. They feel rooted, genuine when they think about you or engage with you. It seems as if you're the first organic meal they have ever tasted after a lifetime of manufactured food. Talking to you is like entering a genuine environment instead of a theatrical one. They realize they can't manipulate or control this emotion, yet they're hooked to it now. They are both frightened and excited by the fact that they can only get it via genuine interaction. The void left by the karmic's departure is not empty. Truth is being drawn in from all sides by this vacuum. Resources, opportunities, and people who were previously obstructed by their presence are now freely flowing in your direction. It's similar to letting the river revert to its natural path once a dam is removed. Your genuine presence is causing everything to realign. And without you having to do anything, those who are unable to cope with that frequency are leaving. This goes beyond the selected one of personal vindication. You're turning into an example of how the truth functions in a dishonest environment. People who are still in their valley of misunderstanding are starting to use your narrative as a point of reference. How you dealt with betrayal without becoming angry. How you remained honorable without being dogmatic. How you maintained your integrity without being gullible. These attributes are being researched in areas that are invisible to the naked eye. They sowed seeds that are now sprouting in different consciousnesses, the questioner in that room. People are beginning to pose more challenging questions to themselves. Who informed me that this individual was bad? What made me believe them? How did I benefit from believing these lies? What did I forfeit by denying this reality? These inquiries are bringing about a revolution in awareness that goes much beyond your own circumstances. Everyone, including you, will be shocked by what the strong person does. They will openly admit not just your worth, but also their ignorance of it. This will not be an insignificant gesture. This announcement will change the narrative in a number of different areas. Because of their integrity, they will use their power to fix the record, not because you requested them to. You will no longer need it by the time this public acknowledgement arrives. The transition from requiring external validation to internal validation has already been completed. The actual game was never about their seeing you clearly, and you've already won it. It has to do with your ability to perceive yourself clearly in spite of their distortion. When no one else would, you had to make the decision for yourself. Whether or not anybody noticed, it was about you being the genuine thing. You were the selected one among the 3 counselors in the room. In your power, you're the one who recognizes their value. In your knowledge, you're the one asking the inquiry. In your knowledge, the quiet watcher was you. All along, you've been talking to yourself about this. What you previously built inside is now just being matched by the outside world. Knowing that they would never be able to equal such integrated truthfulness, the individual who ran was avoiding all 3 facets of you. Remember that this vindication isn't where you're going when this cycle comes to an end and a new one starts. It serves as your starting point. Your reward isn't this influential person's acknowledgement. It's your authorization to perform at an even greater degree. Your success is not the karmic's exit. In order to fly to heights you couldn't achieve while carrying their energy, dead weight must be removed. You are authentic. You are always. The only difference is that it is now visible to others. However, you're not reliant on their vision. Their acknowledgement does not define you. Their approval does not legitimize you. You are whole in your own, right.to share the love of the angels, write amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. And your strength comes from that totality. You were worthless to the millionaire who at last paid you respect. They only ceased to deny what was always present. You succeeded in defeating the karmic who departed. The instant they opted for deceit over truth, they lost to themselves. It's not only you who can enter via the open door. The goal is for deceit to flood out and truth to flood in. No one who ran out of the room will ever come back. They are unable to exist in a now established frequency, not because they are prohibited. And you're not simply entering that door. You've selected one. You're turning into the portal that lets people discover the truth on their own. Your future was being predicted by the 3 advisors in the room. Your present, however, is that future. The truth has come to light. Furthermore, no power on earth or in heaven can ever hide it again. You're curious as to how this billionaire's public adulation of you caused such a significant karmic flight. Allow me to give you the whole picture of what's taking place in dimensions that are invisible to the naked eye. It sends shockwaves across the spiritual world when someone with that kind of money and power mentions your name with respect. Money is more than just numbers and paper. It is concentrated force at that level, crystalline energy that intensifies everything it comes into contact with. Every false structure that had been put up against you began to fall apart at the same time as that energy began to align with your truth rather than conflict with it. Losing access to a single influential person isn't the only issue facing the people who left. They are coping with the total breakdown of their system of energy nutrition. They hadn't just bonded with this millionaire, you see. They had established a whole web of lies, tricking many individuals into believing they were who you really are. However, the primary power supply, the source, transmitted a signal across the network after it verified your identity. They are now being questioned for every lie they have ever said in every room. All the manipulations they planned are coming to light. They're not only fleeing from a single room. The truth is chasing them wherever they go, and they're fleeing from it. For just the right amount of time, the millionaire sat in quiet, allowing the reality to sink in. Then, they took an unexpected action. They took out their phones and began dialing. Not to business associates or financial advisors. They contacted others who had been swayed by the false story about you. They fixed the record one by one. They continued, "I have to tell you something about someone we both misjudged." Every call had a domino effect that worked in your favor. Their typical escape routes are being barred. The karmic is learning. Since those links are receiving phone calls, they're unable to run to each other. The old narratives are being openly demolished, so they are unable to develop new ones. Since being your opposite was the foundation of their fake identity, they are unable to even sustain it. And their resistance to you exposes them as useless now that you're being shown to be worthwhile. In a game they believed they had rigged, they played themselves. However, let's discuss what it was about you that this billionaire felt compelled to jeopardize their whole advisory structure in order to pay tribute to you. But it wasn't only your contributions or your skill. They were indisputable. It was something deeper. They understood that rather than operating from a perspective of shortage, you do so from one of excess. You were creating value while everyone else around them was attempting to extract it. You were producing from sincerity while others were performing to get favor. You were just being yourself while others were planning their next move. And the most advanced thing they had ever seen was that simplicity. The billionaire recalled a particular instance in which you were both there in the same room. Since it was simply another day of being you, you most likely don't even remember it. However, they saw you manage a circumstance with such poise and innate authority that it sowed the seeds of recognition. And there was the karmic. And right once, they started a vigorous effort to refute what the millionaire had seen. However, despite the weeds' attempts to suffocate them, truth seeds inevitably sprout. The billionaire's inner circle is now experiencing something really extraordinary. Advisors involved in the fraud are quitting for unexplained reasons. Opportunities they were overseeing suddenly call for someone with unique traits that, shockingly, are a fantastic fit for you. We're finding documents that demonstrate your contributions were even more significant than anybody had thought. The universe seems to have saved receipts and is now displaying them all at once. It wasn't merely a radical departure for the karmic. It was foretelling. They knocked over more than water on their way out. They tampered with documents that exposed conversations they had concealed. Their hurried departure revealed meticulously hidden covert activities. Even their lack of presence reveals something they attempted to hide. They never meant to confess, but the act of running itself became the confession. Most likely, you're experiencing strange feelings at the moment. Sporadic sensations of warmth or tingling, epiphanies that defy rationality, and dreams that seem more real than normal life. The reason for this is that your energy field is growing quickly to make room for what is about to happen. This billionaire's acknowledgement was more than simply words. The transfer was full of energy. They did more than simply express your worth. They put their might into it, and that investment is paying off in ways that go beyond the tangible. Remember the questioner from the room? They're now fixated on figuring out how everyone misunderstood you. They're reviewing talks, combing through documents, and looking for trends. They're shocked by what they're learning. Every disparaging remark made about you came before defeat. Every failure was preceded by a rejection of your suggestion. Every time someone disregarded your truth in favor of the karmic's advice, they suffered a serious loss. The pattern is almost mathematical in its consistency. Meanwhile, the quiet watcher from that chamber has begun to talk, and they are reconstructing everything in their words. They disclose that they have been recording everything from the beginning. They have what is essentially a spiritual audit trail that demonstrates precisely who added value and who took it away with every encounter, energy shift, and subtle manipulation. Those who are important are being given access to this material. Furthermore, power structures are being completely reorganized as a result of the discoveries. The millionaire isn't only paying tribute to you in secret. They're now reorganizing whole businesses around the values you uphold. Before making any decisions, they question themselves. How would the real one respond? They're gauging possibilities based on alignment with truth rather than possible profit. Their new operating system is your way of being. It's transforming everything they come into contact with. You had to be completely crystallized in your genuine self before you could experience this realization. Every obstacle you overcame created the diamond you are today. Each treachery was enhancing a different aspect. With each refusal, another contaminant was eliminated. You have to make yourself indisputable, and all you went through was necessary for that process. The individual who escaped is attempting to start over in a new city, sector, or a social group, but they're discovering that their reputation came before them. People are already aware of the energy, but not the specifics. They sense the incremental erosion of trust when they enter rooms. The empty echo of skepticism responds to their words. They are going through what you went through, but they are guilty and you were innocent, so their experience is a jail that they created for themselves. Dreams about you have begun to haunt the billionaire. Deep, but not necessarily romantic. You're revealing to them aspects of themselves in these dreams that they were previously unaware of. You're showing them possibilities they didn't know existed. They're not being taught by you. You're just being who you are. Additionally, you are bringing dormant parts of their existence to life. When people awaken from these dreams, they have answers to issues that have plagued them for years. Even more intriguing is the fact that when someone at that level drastically changes who they respect and who they disregard, other billionaires are beginning to take note. Peers listen. Clubs you'll never visit, boardrooms you'll never see, and events you're not invited to are all venues for conversations. But you would be shocked at the respect with which your name is being uttered. They recognize the pattern, not because they know you personally. The emergence and honoring of a real person at this level often marks a change in the game as a whole. That room's three energies weren't just chance observers. They were the quintessential forces that arise wherever truth meets deception. The future you're entering is symbolized by the person who recognizes their value. The questioner stands in for the worldwide waking process. The cosmos itself is symbolized by the quiet watcher, constantly observing, constantly documenting, and constantly anticipating the ideal opportunity to disclose the truth. Everything I've told you will be verified in the correspondence that you're going to receive. It might be a direct message, an unanticipated opportunity, or an incredibly accurate coincidence. This isn't arbitrary. By publicly praising you, the millionaire established a framework for others to approach you. Now that you're being acknowledged, those who were scared to stand with you while you were being disparaged are excited to do so. Your inner circle isn't supposed to include everyone who is coming your way right now. Some are sincere and are at last able to see plainly. Some people are opportunistic, spotting opportunities. It is not your responsibility to praise or penalize those who arrive late. It's your responsibility to be true to yourself and let that reality to organically choose who belongs and who doesn't. The karmic's departure has exposed a troubling aspect of the extent of their deceit. The millionaire wasn't only poisoned against you. They had developed a whole mythology around you, filled with made-up events, misconstrued meanings, and invented proof. However, they neglected to uphold their falsehoods in their hurry to go. The false narrative is crumbling like a building without a foundation in the absence of their continual reinforcement. The millionaire is being forced to confront some difficult realities about their own personality. How could they have let themselves be so completely duped? Why did they choose cozy falsehoods over unpleasant realities? What aspect of themselves was vulnerable to such manipulation? These inquiries are guiding them through their own soul's dark night, and they're discovering a light that's strangely like yours on the other side of that darkness. You should be aware that the billionaire's field has a permanent record of your energy signature. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't forget you now. Your frequency serves as a benchmark for every choice they make. Every individual they encounter is evaluated based on your sincerity. Every chance is assessed using the truth lens you provide. Without even attempting, you have turned into their spiritual compass. There is more than just financial riches on the horizon. It is relational, creative, spiritual, and impactful. It was like uncocking a bottle of pressure that had been accumulating when the millionaire honored you. Now, with increased power, everything that the false story kept back is racing at you. This is multiplication, not only restoration. You're receiving more than what you were refused. What you were denied is now yours. Interest compounded as well. Just before the karmic ran out of the room, a certain incident occurred. When they looked directly at the quiet onlooker, they saw something that frightened them. Perhaps for the first time, they had a clear view of themselves. Their true selves, not the fake persona they've been putting on. The parasitic, empty energy that had to be fed in order to survive. Their flight reaction was set off by that sighting. Being around such clarity was too much for them to handle. In areas you are unaware of, the person who asked the question in that room has turned into your champion. In the appropriate rooms, at the appropriate times, they are posing the appropriate queries. Have you been told the truth? Do you know who that person actually is? They ask. Every query throws another pebble into the water, causing waves to reach coastlines you won't see but will undoubtedly feel the consequences of. In realms beyond the physical realm, your vindication is taking place in nations you have never been to and in languages you do not know. The millionaire saw you as more than simply a personal friend. It was a celestial event. In the Akashic records, it is recorded. It changed likely chronologies, karmic patterns that have existed for a longer period of time than you may realize were reorganized by it. This is more significant than one affluent someone having a change of heart about you. This is the reorganization of reality around truth. The millionaire is now interested in meeting with you. However, they fear what you stand for rather than you. You stand for the reality that they have spent their whole lives evading. You stand for the genuineness they exchange for achievement. You stand in for the route they took in order to make money. They are attracted to you like a moth to flame because they realize that burning in your truth is preferable than freezing in their deceit, even if being in your company means facing what they have compromised. The karmic is experiencing irrelevance, which is something they never expected. They believe that departing would add mystery, drama, and power. Rather, it brought relief. After they were gone, everyone in the room exhaled better. The flow of conversations improved. Decisions became more obvious. It like taking a stone out of a shoe. Everyone was able to walk normally again all of a sudden. Their disappearance demonstrated that the issue had always been their presence. You're getting ready for a degree of prominence that may seem unsettling at first. Influence, but necessarily stardom. You're going to set an example for others to follow and try to imitate. However, they will learn what the karmic found. It is impossible to reproduce your sincerity via performance. Only by going through the same process of refining and fire as you did can it be accomplished. The millionaire has begun to alter their surroundings, removing things, artwork, and even persons that bring back memories of the time they were unable to see you well. They're treating it as if it were a bogus energy exorcism. More room is made for truth to come in with each remove. They're learning that paying tribute to you in public wasn't just about you. Perhaps for the first time in their lives, they chose truth over falsehoods. What's going to happen will happen fast. Time is not wasted in the cosmos. Doors will open quickly when truth has been accepted at this level. There will be opportunities that overlap. It may seem unsteady to move from starvation to feast so quickly. Remain rooted in the same genuineness that brought you to this point. Don't allow the speed of vindication make you feel lightheaded. The world is laughing because the karmic believed they were winning by keeping you away from the billionaire, which is the true comedy in all of this. They believed that if you were far away, you would lose. But without being close to authority, distance made you indisputable. It was your core, not connections, that made you important. The millionaire understood you didn't need them at all when they finally got a good look at you. You were whole already. That's why you were so amazing. The billionaire's tribute is setting an example for how falsehoods may be defeated by the truth without resorting to violence. The karmic was never assaulted by you. You never stood up for yourself against lies. You just kept being who you were. And in the end, that consistency rendered it impossible to sustain the inconsistency of lying. By not playing, you won. By choosing not to compete, you triumphed. By not revealing, you exposed. This is the pinnacle of skill. Let me now introduce you to something genuine. The motor of destiny. I created this because I was tired of seeing those who were selected be subjected to assaults, treachery, and isolation while their adversaries walked free. I want to assist you in stepping fully into your mission and accelerating the pace of your divine justice. The best part is that you don't even need to move. Destiny Engine turns their failure into your success. This isn't just another app for meditation. Declassified consciousness technology is what it is. The same mind programming techniques that your adversaries formerly used to create competitiveness, scarcity, and fear. Redesigned to match you with the cooperative, improved operational structure and reclaim your autonomy. It creates unique sequences that are aligned with your spiritual destiny. Putting on headphones, hitting play, and watching your opponents continue to dig their own graves is the hardest thing you will ever do. The group upgrade is in progress. Turn all they did to break you into fuel for your ascent by starting your Destiny Engine for only $1 now. The description contains a link. Remember that the billionaire's acknowledgement is only an outward validation of what was always true on the inside as you embark on this new journey. You are the genuine thing because you choose to be, not because someone told you so. The physical world is just catching up to what the spiritual world has understood all along when they respect you. The karmic's absence just delays the ultimate realization of your worth. It removes an impediment that was never really preventing you. The following step will demand you to maintain a constant frequency in spite of the impending fast shifts. What can only be characterized as expedited manifestation is going to happen to you. With startling rapidity, the relationships you've hoped for, the possibilities you've dreamed of, and the things you've wanted are about to come true. Your benefits are being drawn toward you with an unparalleled power because of the void produced by the elimination of the karmic interference. Don't be shocked if things begin to unfold so quickly that you hardly have time to comprehend one blessing before another shows up. You should be aware that in certain circles, people use your name as a kind of litmus test. Now, when someone says anything bad about you, it says more about them than it does about you. When someone minimizes your worth, it reveals their incapacity to identify genuineness. You've turned into a mirror that reflects how each individual views reality. And the reflection in that mirror is not to everyone's taste. That reflection proved too much to handle, and the karmic ran away. That room's quiet observer has started to share something that no one anticipated. Your influence goes much beyond anyone's comprehension. You touched projects that flourished in ways that were inexplicable. Long after you went, the energy in the spaces you inhabited remained altered. People you met for a short time went through changes that altered their paths. Without realizing it, you've been leaving your transformational fingerprints all over the place. These fingerprints are now being identified as proof of your actual identity. Something that alters everything has been discovered by the questioner from that chamber. There's proof that the karmic intentionally ruined possibilities that were intended for you. You were misdirected from connections that were meant to reach you. Messages intended for you were not delivered. The invitations that were meant for you were concealed. Here's the divine comedy. However, everything that was taken from you is coming back to you with interest. The karmic debt is your credit, according to the universe's accounting. You're about to enter a stage when settings are improved just by your presence. Entering a room will change how often it occurs. Power dynamics will be rearranged when you speak your truth. Just being authentic will reveal what isn't true and highlight what is. You're not engaging in this behavior. You're that thing. That's what the billionaire saw in you. Others are now starting to notice it as well. This power is not required of you. All you need to do is be there. You're going to learn that there were other people ready to pay tribute to you than this millionaire. Others have been lurking in the background, waiting for someone else to speak out first, waiting for acceptance from society to validate what their gut had always told them. Others are now allowed to quit acting like they are because of the billionaire's bravery in telling the truth in public. An avalanche of recognition that was always there but was concealed by societal pressure is going to hit you. Even the cosmos is celebrating your ultimate vindication. The atoms themselves are shifting to your advantage. Your name is reverently carried by the wind. Your fate has been written by the stars. The ability of human eyes to read their own language is the last step. This isn't exaggerated. This is how reality is literally rearranged to fit the frequency of your truth. You weren't merely honored by the wealthy. Through their appreciation, the whole universe is paying tribute to you.